Good morning. Welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church, and welcome to Poetry Sunday. Yay! I'm Sarah Reiling, one of the worship associates and part of the team that works to bring the services to you each week. We're glad that you're here with us today. Whether you are a member or a new visitor, we welcome you. Whether you're here in the sanctuary or with us watching online, may you find connection with us and nourishment for your mind and spirit. Here at Community UU, we welcome all of who you are and all of who you dream to become. If you would like to share something that is on your heart today, there is a book in the back between the two cabinets where you may write your joy or concern. Later in the service, we will read from the book. In this way, your joys and your concerns will become part of this service and part of the prayers and thoughts of this congregation. The information will also be shared with our minister and the caring committee. Today is Poetry Sunday, one of my favorite services of the year because I get to hear from many of you. Last year, Poetry Sunday was on July 23rd, and early that Sunday morning, just after midnight, a person or persons unknown detonated a firebomb on our front porch. Because of our fire alarm system and an observant passerby on Parker Road, the first responders arrived in just a few minutes and put out the fire. The church leaders gathered here and talked through the night to the fire department and the police department and thought about what to do next. Our doors were broken and charred. The entryway was burned. But the church escaped major damage. No one was physically injured, but our sense of security was shattered. Church leaders decided that we should have church that morning. And with extra security from the Plano Police Department, we had church. We worshiped together, held each other, cried together, and recited poetry. We were even able to laugh. We showed each other and the world that hate doesn't win. We showed each other that We showed each other and the world that hate doesn't win. That's worth stating twice. Some people that hadn't planned to read a poem decided they absolutely had to take part, and we had many more poems than usual. In honor of that day, I have made some time today for impromptu poetry. So after everyone that signed up to read their poems is finished, you will still have a chance to get involved in weaving this service. It has been a difficult year. We have worked to heal, and despite our grief, we continue to do those things that make us a community of love and faith. Our pride flag has been stolen many times. Our Black Lives Matter banner has been damaged, but we replace them and we go on spreading the message of love and inclusion here in North Texas. May the power of love continue to win against hate. We are still here. Come, let us worship together. Our Chalice letter today is Arn, and the reading is by Sarah Ruth Wekoye Davis.
We light this chalice with an open heart. We light this chalice with resolve. We light this chalice with tears still fresh on our cheeks. We light this chalice in hope, a tiny flame we nurture. We light this chalice with reverence for this place, for these people, for this time. We light this chalice with all our souls longing to be who we are, to be who we will become, to be ourselves. We light this chalice in self-love, in giving love, in holy love.
Thank you, Arn. This church, like all Unitarian Universalist churches, is not bound by a common creed. We are not required to make a statement of belief. Instead, we are bound together by our covenant, the promises we have made to each other and the wider community. We recommit ourselves to these sacred promises each time we recite our covenant. Please join me as once again we say these words together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the peace and freedom, and to help one another. Guess what? It's poetry time. Yay! Our first presenter today is Lowlands by Patrick Bowler, who's reading Lowlands.
There are those that would pass the waters of their house on to neighbors, lovers, children. I wish only to return it to the river mouth from which it sprang. Let it be home to minnows once more, beneath the shade of willows and ash, down deep where the ferns grow and dragonflies linger. Let it be renewed of its sediment and flow down, ever onward on its most natural course. On the river she loses her name, unable to answer from where she came, but who would ask? Being in her natural eddies, it is perfectly evident who she is and from where she hails from. In this way, it is all so clear where she must go.
Thank you, Patrick. That was lovely. Our next poet is Mina Daffinee. Come on up.
I am very much an emotional poet. The feelings I have is I need to get them out, so I do it through my poetry. And these two poems that I'm going to read were about when my grandmother came to visit us, and her doctor said for her not to come because she had a serious heart condition, and she ended up dying there. But the first poem is how I felt she was feeling, and then the second one is how I felt. So it's called Waiting. Distant drums echo in my head, long ago memories carry me away, bringing serenity to my lonely days. Beset with quiet habitude, I impatiently await my destiny. Loss of daily memory brings confusion. I amble about in turtle-like fashion. My fight and will have long descended. My days unmeasured, my nights linger long. With visitors few and infrequent, I have only myself and my memories to sustain me to the end. There's no one home. My safe returns have been cut off, nowhere to return when homeward bound. My heart aches with long ago remembrances. My childhood home, with loving memories, has new occupants. The loving home of grandparents vacated by death. Distant lands of warmth grasp parents' soul. Nowhere left for me to reminisce. It is grow-up time, time to leave the past behind, time to make new memories for one's own. My knowing heart fights the battle of retreat. There's no one home anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mina. Our next group of haiku is read by Joe Barlow.
Good morning. One of the benefits of having a freshwater pond in your backyard in Plano are these dragonflies come to visit you every spring and last through the summer. Not the correct way to have a freshwater pond is to start with a koi pond and then one night fill your pond with water, forget about it, and wake up in the morning to all of your koi are dead from the chlorine. So I no longer have a koi pond. I have a freshwater pond, and these things come every year. So today, I'm going to read you a couple of poems, about haiku-type poems from a famous anecdote about Basho. It's about the master Basho critiquing a student about a red dragonfly poem. Basho was born in 1644 and became the most renowned Japanese poet of all the haiku forms. I am not President Biden, by the way, but I do have a cough. Before reading these poems, I'm going to give you a brief overview and reminder of haiku. An original haiku, written either in Japanese or in English, consists of 3 lines, 17 syllables broken into 3 lines, or in Japanese, it's called onjis, or an onji is a sound unit. So the line 1 is 5 syllables or sound units. Line 2 is 7 syllables, sound units. 3, again, is 5. So as you can see, translating from Japanese to English, you can't get a 100% recreation of the 575 format. What translators attempt to do is to preserve the poetic qualities, thematic elements, and that define haiku as a genre. Okay. So the student's haiku is red dragonfly. Take off its wings, and they are pepper pods. Basho critiqued this poem, saying it focused on death, on the dragonfly becoming like a pepper pod. He then made a suggestion, the change suggestion that focused the poem on life, imagining the pepper pod transforming into a dragonfly. Red pepper pods, add wings to them, and they are dragonflies. Thank you.
Our next poet is Valerie Gomes.
These are 3 poems that I wrote in different times of my life. I've been writing since I was 9 years old. And they have one theme in common. They are all about a clash of cultures coming together, where sometimes one of the cultures is destroyed or totally destroyed or changed, or someone wishes they could stay in the culture that used to be. So there are 3 of them, and they aren't very long. So the first one is called The Viking. O Thor, forgive me. I come alone again this year. Again this year. There will be no horse for sacrifice, no hot blood spilling out, no sacred oaths, no thundering joy of assembled men. My son is a fool. My grandson, a woman-skirted priest of the new god. O Thor, I was wrong to live so long. In the days of my youth I should have taken an oar and sailed with golden Hral over the rim of the world. The second one is called Tears of Gold. The gods are weeping tears of gold. On this day of sorrow, no sweet smoke rises, only the choking dust of fallen rubble. Where the priest stood, feathered, bright, and shining, stand now the ugly foreign ones. Harsh-voiced, they order the destruction. On the high altar is a symbol of their unwanted gods. We were the greatest of nations, the ones who created the drumming and singing, the festivals that turned the seasons in proper order. We're all signs of our place among the stars. The golden gods are leaving us. The fire gods are leaving us. The rain gods and those that ripen the corn are leaving us. A darkness is growing, spilling across the land. The conquerors call it salvation. And this is it's the latest one of these groups, but it's called He Wasn't My Sweetie Anymore. The white men said people like her are evil, wrong, an abomination in God's eyes. But she was so magic, so good, so full of fire and wonder. I felt so honored when she chose me to be with. Of all the tribe, me! Then the whites came and took her away to the white man's place. They cut her long black hair. The hair was so sweetly scented, decorated with the sacred and the silly. They took away her special clothes, not really women's clothes, but they couldn't tell. When she returned, wearing a work shirt and denim trousers, with her short hair, all the magic was gone. He wasn't my sweetie anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Our next poet is Ellie White.
This first poem is from my third book. This is called And for Too Long After. This is a hybrid memoir combining creative nonfiction and poetry. And I'm going to read a poem from this book called Losing Respect. Losing Respect. Hot Springs, Arkansas, 2002. Sometimes disbelief is a hydra, new explanations sprouting to replace the disproven. It can take years for the evidence to set in. A cacophony of whispers, endless rows of averted eyes, like the teeth of some great shark. The newly familiar clink of glass bottles as you tip the trash can back before rolling it down to the curb. Or it can happen with one flick of a lighter. I took my first drag in front of my father outside the NA meeting where he got his fourth 30-day chip. Dad didn't get angry, didn't snatch the camel from my fingers, didn't stamp it out on the pavement. I was 15. He looked down at his size 12s, this photograph of a tall man who used to live in my house, who always forgot and tripped over the dog bowls, and in the slightest rendition of his booming voice said, "You don't have to do that." But it was too late. Both of us undone, in that moment and for too long after. The second poem is from my fourth book, which is my most recent book, was released this year. This book is just poetry. It is entitled Vanishing Below the Waist. And the poem that I'm going to read is called A Personal History of Bruxism. Bruxism, for anyone who doesn't know, is grinding your teeth. And this poem is a sestina, so you will notice that certain words repeat. A Personal History of Bruxism. What nobody tells you about fillings is they crack. Even if you brush in perfect little circles, avoid sugar before bed, it will happen. Gurgle warm salt water, rub your gums with clove oil, Google chimes in with advice. On the way to the dentist, school bells ringing all the way, jammed in a minivan traffic legacy. Bad teeth run in your family. A dental legacy to match the psychological, orthodontia and minds crack similarly. The surprise of biting a metal fork, bells and whistles, a melody of sirens. Too much sugar. At least you have a Twinkie defense. Ding-dongs chime in the key of Is It Over? You taste dimes and salt. Your sister got veneers because the Smiths didn't salt their driveway. It was veneers or a legacy of broken bonds. Your mom was so quick to chime in her support, the gilded guilt about to crack her wide open. You remember snow, like sugar dust across the ice, the radio playing jingle bells. In your house, the cats have no bells. You learn to pry them off with pliers. No salt on Mom's popcorn. No cinnamon, just sugar in the cookies. A never-ending legacy of how she likes things. Dad's on crack and one of the damn neighbors got a wind chime. You buy a special alarm clock. No chimes, buzzers, beeps, or banging church bells. You wake up to ocean waves because crack isn't the joke it used to be. You still cut salt like Coke at Cece's Pizza, laugh loud like your legacy depends on it. Your teeth start to dissolve like sugar. 14 years old, the dentist says, less sugar. And do you make yourself throw up? 2 chimes to his office, 5 to the shrinks, adolescence a legacy whispered in elevator shafts. Mute the alarm bells as you slip past statistics. Please hold the salt. Hold yourself still. Plummet through every crack. Grind your teeth to sugar. Hollow as bells inside, they chime a song of cuts and salt. A teenage tragedy, a legacy of all the ways to crack. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellie. Okay, all right. Remember, we do this every year, so be planning for next year. So I wanted to ask all the poets and poetry readers if they would like to come to church chats afterwards. You know, we make a circle and we talk about the service. So I think we have a lot of good things to talk about if you want to all come. So please, and other people too are going to come too, yes. I want other people that didn't read poems to come too, but I would especially like the poetry readers and the poets to come talk about their poems and talk about poetry. So I hope you can. Our worship time is ending, and as is our custom, we will extinguish our chalice. Please say the words together with me. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So our benediction today is by Pat Uribe-Lichty. Go out now with hearts and minds renewed to the world that is waiting for you. Go out to that world to bring your gentle touch to those in pain. Go out to feed and house those in need. Go out to speak truth to those with power. Go out with courage to do the work which calls you. Go now with your passion and faith to change the world.